Hi guys, Freddie B here. So, we'll talk about one subject today, and we'll talk about another subject on another video. How is that? So today what I want to talk about is some of the absurdity that's going on in government, locally, statewide, nationally, what have you. One of the biggest things I find really interesting that lately it's happened in the news is the California legislature legislating that by 2035, all vehicles sold in California have to be electric. Now that's pretty scary because that's only 12, 13 years away. So let's talk about the guy who's in charge of California for a second, Gavin Newsom, okay? Gavin Newsom has got a degree from Santa Clara University in political science. He was groomed to be governor. He was mayor of San Francisco. He was married to Kimberly Guilfoyle, the hottie on Fox, who is now hanging out with Donald Trump Jr. See, you want to know why? Because he was married to her for 5 years. Then he started cheating on her, so she left him. Great guy, that Gavin Newsom. I know everybody cheats, but you know, not everybody has to cheat. And you know, everybody will Trump cheats too. I get it. Totally got it. But here's what else is interesting is his aunt is married to Ron Pelosi. Ron Pelosi of Nancy Pelosi fame. Okay, so in the California strings of politics, Pelosi's all over this. Gavin Newsom, he may end up being, and he's being groomed as a Democratic nominee for president in 2024 to run against whomever the Republicans put up. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that's great because this guy is an idiot. But obviously, we have an idiot in the White House now, so it really doesn't make any difference, I guess. But the guy is a dick. So, he got the California legislature to mandate that by 2035, all cars sold in California have to be electric. Now, this is the same guy that this last weekend got on TV and said, do not charge your electric vehicles. There's not enough power in the electric grid. If you believe in alternative energy, and I am one person who actually does, okay, I think it's more of an evolutionary thing instead of a revolutionary thing. It has to evolve as infrastructure builds itself into its availability to provide these alternative forms of fuel. Until then, natural gas is the cleanest burning fossil fuel, but we're still going to use oil and coal and diesel and gasoline, and we still must. I don't know if you've ever been in a hurricane situation, but I have. And I do a lot of after hurricane stuff. And one of the things that I've done in the past is have to set up camps to take care of first responders. And without diesel generators, there's no way you'd be able to house and feed hundreds of people trying to help hundreds and thousands of people after a hurricane. And you can't build a solar farm in 2 days. So, diesel fuel, fossil fuels have got to be around. Let them evolve out of it. Let the natural marketplace, one other thing that Gavin Newsom doesn't know about, help create these alternative energy sources. So, a couple of things. You've got 13 years, as I mentioned, between now and when this mandate. It doesn't mean they're going to eliminate or outlaw fossil fuel cars, I'm pretty sure. But with the average car that is electrically operated costing the average about $60,000, the price isn't going to come down, and in 13 years, actually, the average price of a car will probably be $60,000. I hate to scare everybody, but that's probably true. When I started selling cars in 1984, the average cost of a car was $11,000. Now it's about $34,000 30 years later. So, you know, what's going to happen? Who knows? But inflation's not helping, okay? So here's a couple of things. How are you going to build the necessary infrastructure in California or anywhere in order to handle the incredible load of putting a vehicle that needs 240 volts in order to charge itself up in a reasonable amount of time, when you have hundreds of thousands of these vehicles that are going to be hooked up to the power grid at the same time? It just can't happen. And people aren't going to stop washing their dishes, stop washing their clothing so they can fill up their car. They're just not going to do it. Americans won't stand for that. So on the side of that, you also won't stand, Americans don't want to use nuclear power, which is the cleanest power available. It's abundant, it's easy to get, and it would be the perfect solution. But there's a NIMBY factor, not in my backyard factor, for nuclear power, And nobody in California, especially those whack jobs, wants nuclear power in California. Again, so you can't have, I mean, you're going to take the entire San Fernando Valley and make it glass photovoltaic cells. Even if you did that on a rainy day, which is not a lot of them, but on a rainy day, you're not going to produce as much electricity as you're going to need. And you can have huge battery stores and everything to help that. But once again, fossil fuel is the cheap, smart way to go. There's a difference between climate change and pollution. And I think everybody, to a man, woman, child, whatever, thinks that pollution's a bad thing. But there are people that are confusing pollution with global climate change. I will be the first one to tell you that we live in a dynamic world, that the world is always changing, but it's awful arrogant of us to think that we are living in the optimal climate. If we increase CO2, just so you know, from its current 400 parts per million to double it to 800 parts per million, it will have zero effect. If the temperature rises a half degree, that means maybe the frost line will move up a little bit, and think of all the additional crops that you can grow. Actually, greening the planet is a good thing because you can produce more food. And since we have more and more people, we're going to need more and more food. All right, number 2. So you can't build enough photovoltaic cells. The third thing is, guys, is there is an environmental disaster waiting to happen when you have to mine lithium. First of all, you got kids in third world countries mining lithium, and these leaching pools and ponds, if a bird should land on them, will die within 20 minutes, supposedly. Now, I don't have the scientific papers to back that up, but that's just what I've heard. These things are like terribly, terribly toxic. And you have children going after these because, again, not in my backyard. So how are you going to get rid of the lithium? Well, it's the same problem as getting rid of nuclear waste, I guess, except nuclear waste you have to get rid of every 30 years when you refuel a reactor. Lithium batteries last, 3, 4, 5 years, and you're going to have to change them out. They're not that rechargeable. They are, but they're not. So how are you going to do that? You got cobalt, lithium, all these heavy, heavy metals that are environmentally bad. They don't destroy the earth, but they're not good, and they're toxic to humans. Now, you could put them in the same nuclear bunkers that we're using in the mountains out west to store spent nuclear fuel, I guess, if they would allow that to happen. But again, by trying to create a cleaner environment because you want to abate something that's really not happening, you're going to create an even bigger, more intense environmental disaster, with lithium being a problem and this other forms of pollution. So, way to go, Gavin Newsom. You proved you're an idiot by legislating this. Tesla proved concept, great cars. Yeah, they're okay cars. Audi makes a better car. Mercedes-Benz makes a better car. Cadillac's going to make a better electric car. Not because Tesla makes a bad car. It's just that these guys have been doing it for 100+ years. They know how to create and engineer an automobile. Tesla's about 20 years old. They're getting better, but they're not as good. I can tell you that they're sure not as good as Audi. Okay. Anyway, give me a comment if you like. If you hate me, that's fine too. Let me know. I appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me at least your ear for a little bit. And next we'll talk about some of the other stupid stuff that stupid people are doing around. So, ta-ta for now.